Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:16. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and I apologize for our delay. Our executive session did run late. So before we start our official start of our meeting, we did want to start really by acknowledging the passing of someone who was very special to the Narragansett community. So recently, Ann Masterson passed away, and she was the chair of the Narragansett School Committee for a very long time. And while I did not have the honor or the pleasure of serving on the committee with her, she was very well respected, very highly regarded. I remember watching school committee meetings when she was chairing the meetings at the Narragansett Peer School in the library. And Diane served on the committee with her, and Susan Bonanno and Ray Rinaldi. And so I only really knew Ann from just being a parent sitting in the audience, and just had a chance to just watch her leadership and how she handled herself, and was always very professional and personable, even though I didn't get the pleasure to serve with her. Diane, did you want to add a few things about Ann?
Sure. Ann's final term on the school committee was one of my earliest terms, and she was an excellent role model and taught me so very much, and a pleasure to work with. And she had a great enthusiasm for our schools and our district overall. And it was an honor to serve with her, and we'll miss her very much.
So at this time, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Ann Masterson. Thank you, everyone. All right, so now we're moving into the meeting. Is there a motion to seal the executive session minutes from tonight?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. And tonight, we did vote to approve 2 homeschooling requests, and those homeschooling requests were approved 5-0. It's now time for open forum. This is an opportunity for anyone from the community to speak. They have up to 3 minutes to talk. It can be about anything that is on the agenda or not on the agenda. And just please note that questions and comments will be permitted, but it's not a time for school committee members to respond to the questions and comments during open forum. So at this time, is there anyone that would like to speak for open forum? All right, come on up and please just state your name. Thank you.
Check if your mic's on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
My name is Ryan McGuire. What do cars have to do with school? Cars can be dangerous. Cars can hurt and kill people. To operate a car, you must have a valid license. To operate a car, you must have proof of insurance. In Rhode Island, drivers cannot exceed the designated school zone speed limit, typically 20 miles per hour. A school zone is defined as anywhere within 1/4 mile radius of any type of school in the state of Rhode Island. What do guns have to do with school? Guns are dangerous. Guns are designed to hurt and kill. To operate a handgun, you must have a permit. To operate a firearm, you must pass a background check. I'm proposing that the Narragansett School Committee and the superintendent advocate that all firearms, handguns, rifles, and shotguns within a school zone require a permit, require registration of firearms and licensing of owners, require updated background checks, both state and federal, with no exemptions, and require mandatory gun trigger locks and firearm storage in a combination password-protected gun safe. I'm urging the Narragansett School Committee and superintendents to advocate for all necessary state and local municipalities responsible for Narragansett school zones to authorize and operate a school zone gun safety enforcement system. A school zone gun safety enforcement system can be defined as a system using state and local municipalities in combination to identify and provide a list of gun owners within a given school zone who will be designated by state law or regulation to comply with a firearm permit, registration, license, updated background checks, and firearm locks and gun safes. Gun owners who reside within a school zone area would be asked to be aware of the new school zone gun safety enforcement system. Warnings can be issued to violators for the first 30 days of implementation. Offenders will be automatically issued a summons. Lastly, I propose the Narragansett School Committee and Superintendent to research national data that quantifies the total loss of life and injury as a result of gun violence in comparison to motor vehicle accidents, specifically impacting school children and teachers in a school zone. I am a father, I'm an artist and a teacher. The purpose of me speaking tonight, at tonight's meeting, is an effort to help reduce and stop gun violence. I printed these out and gave a copy to everyone in the committee and the superintendent. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for open forum? Hi, and please state your name.
Hi, good evening. It's Gina Jarama. Thank you. I wanted to ask a couple of questions of the school committee related to mental health and the mental health awareness that's going on in Narragansett. So first of all, gratitude for changing school time last year. I know that was a big effort for many years to help adolescents sleep, which in turn has an impact on mental illness. But I wondered if the data had been collected on any of the changes that might have happened over the course of the last year. I know it's just been 1 year, but hoping that the school committee and the superintendent can do some collection of data on how that might have impacted our students' mental health. And then additionally, there's the federal ESSER funds that I was hoping maybe would be used in effort to keep our students more balanced. The stress of having to catch up from COVID really put a lot of them at risk for more mental illness, and we saw a lot of kids with anxiety. I just spent a summer working with kids with a lot of anxiety as well, and I feel like it's not going to go away in 1 year or 2 years. It's going to be something we're going to see in the long term, and I'm hoping that there's some additional supports for kids with mental illness, and not just kids, but even staff. Just the levels of anxiety have been really higher than we've ever seen, and I just hope that, you know, the things that you guys decide to do, like moving start time back or putting in supports, are going to help all of the students and the staff at Narragansett. Thank you.
Thank you. So even though open forum, we can't go back and forth, we don't have a showcase tonight. So coming up pretty much immediately is the superintendent's report, where he's going to give his kind of opening of school update. I know Pete was planning on giving us kind of like a little COVID update. I'm sure, Pete, can you kind of weave in a social emotional learning update in your superintendent's report tonight? And then anything that doesn't kind of get shared by Pete, please circle up directly. Pete is going to be a good go-to if you're looking for data sources or what's the exact plan for social emotional learning. Certainly copy us on that response, but any like very specific SEL questions. Melissa Denton is here tonight too. We weren't going to do a student services update, but you are here after. We could weave you in as a report if you wanted to add anything after Pete. We can squeeze you in as well too. But also anything that, if you don't really get your questions answered, please reach out directly to Pete or to Melissa for any more kind of granular answers. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for open forum? Okay. So for tonight, next item is school committee reports. Do any school committee members have a report or an update to give? Probably not, because we haven't had subcommittees this summer. Diane, you don't have anything, right? Okay. All right, so Pete, you're up with the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. So we are preparing for opening, and so our staffs have been working incredibly hard to get our schools ready to go. So you see Steve there. Steve and his crew have been working literally nonstop in order to get the buildings repaired in the right way, clean, and a lot of deferred maintenance from over COVID, where we've had to do health and safety pieces. We've had to defer other pieces of maintenance, and he's been having to get caught up on a lot of those this summer. Staffing continues to be a challenge, particularly in our support staffs. So Steve having the right maintenance and custodial staff, that's been an ongoing challenge for him to have the right resources to get everything done. But he's been working some miracles to get that going. We continue to be advertising for our transportation staff for the fall. We are still a little bit short. So if anybody watching would like to join our transportation group, you can just go right to our website. We're looking for bus drivers and other support staff. I am excited about our new faculty hires. So we've been able to get some great teachers on board. As you all recall from our meeting in June, we had a number of retirements this year. And so we've hired some really great individuals that will come. It's been a very competitive process. As you know, we do prioritize getting the right people into our schools. And so we did start hiring, I believe it was March. There have been certain fields that have been very difficult to fill. There has been a drastic shortage of mathematics teachers as well as science teachers and world language teachers. We have been fortunate in that we've been able to fill almost all of those positions. The good news is that we did have to add a preschool class, and so we were able to do that through some transferring of positions, and so we are excited about the preschool coming up, and you'll hear more about this in September, but we will be going through the Bright Star certification this fall. And so Melissa and Jill and Lisa have been working really hard to get ready for that. And that also draws Steve in terms of getting the facilities correct and meeting those standards. I appreciate Gina bringing up the mental health. And so one of the things that we are working on, and we can do an update for you about this fall, is that we are putting a new social emotional learning curriculum. We're going to be looking at Ruler that comes out of the Yale Child Development Program. And so that's a really strong program. It's particularly useful for grades 6 through 12. And so we're starting the training on that as we go forward. We're going to continue to use conscious discipline in the younger grades. It's really appropriate for those younger grades. And correct me wherever I go wrong here, Melissa. But that is rolling forward. We also have a new law this year, and that policy will be updated this fall, but we're implementing the requirements for that around suicide prevention. Since I got here a number of years ago, we've always done some training on that. I just think it's really important, especially in our secondary grades, but really for all grades, for teachers to be aware of signs of suicide. Rebecca Angel is trained in the QPR protocol, and she does train our teachers in that this year. We did get a grant from the Chad O'Brien Foundation, if you remember, a number of years ago, to continue to have her trained and updated, and so with their support, we continue to do that. But really, as Gina brought up, and as you all know, we continue to feel the effects of the pandemic. I think so many, families were disrupted. There was so many changes and so much loss for people that we continue to be conscious of that, continue to program for that. and we really are excited for the beginning of the school year. So we are full steam ahead. The new teachers come a week from Friday for our new teacher training, and then the week before Labor Day, we begin our professional development days, and then students start on Tuesday the 6th. So we're looking forward to having everyone back in the building.
And Melissa, Pete did a nice job kind of giving a high-level overview, not trying to put you on the spot. Anything did you want to add, or do you think Pete kind of summarized what you would have said?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, right now, again, we're happy to give a more detailed kind of overview so that we're making sure that we're accurate and complete when, you know, at a future meeting. And so we can put that on one of our agendas or one of our showcases. You know, one of the things that I think is really important to remember is that as a community, you have prioritized mental health going forward. You have a full school psychologist in every building. You have guidance and support staff at your secondary levels. You have a social emotional learning coach at the elementary level. You've prioritized small class sizes as well as building relationships between teachers and students. And so, you know, all of those things really matter. And, you know, again, no one is perfect. We can always take feedback and get better at what we do. And we're always trying to learn from the most recent research, which is why we're excited about joining in the Ruler program, and that has some of the most updated research and most updated practices as we go forward. But we want to implement that program thoughtfully and carefully, and really stay true to what the training is and do it with fidelity as we move forward.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the school committee for Pete?
Just one on the new program out of Yale, the SEL program. Are we one of the first to implement it, or are we in any sort of training with it?
So to my knowledge, there are maybe 3 other districts in Rhode Island that are doing it. It's been implemented by almost every, you know, by a wide number of districts in Connecticut, not all of them, but a wide number of them. There have been some grant funding in place from the Department of Education to help support kind of implementing that. I think the implementation challenge is making sure that people are trained in the right way and then doing it with fidelity. And I think, you know, like a lot of social emotional programs, the trick is doing it with fidelity over time. And so a lot of times you can get people really buying into it in the first couple months when the training is very recent for them. But structuring your day and making sure that you're taking the time to do that is really important. We are fortunate in Narragansett in that at both our middle school and at our high school, we have regular advisory time where those programs can be implemented. We just have to make sure we're taking the right amount of time to get the people trained so that we're doing it the right way.
So it's not a brand-new program, it's
Oh,
just
no,
new
no.
to us?
Well, it is a fairly recent program within the last, I would say, 5 years or so. It's really starting to roll out, and they keep updating it. The Ruler program has some great data that goes along with it. And so it is very research-based, based on brain science. They have a lot of data and clinical feedback around it from the Yale Child Development Center. And so from everything that we've seen, you know, it would be a really effective program from here, but we just need to undergo the training.
Any other questions from the school committee for Pete? All right, thanks, Pete. So we are on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve consent agenda items CA1A, CA1B, CA1C, CA2A, and CA2B?
So moved?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. On to the budget report. Karen?
Good evening. This is the first budget report of the new fiscal year. So the expenditures for the first month total $2,587,307, and that is 7.46% of our budget. Encumbrances and expenditures total $8,676,519, and that's 25.03% of our budget.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Karen? All right, thank you. So we're on to school committee business, item number 1. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and the director of finance and administration to award the contract for general contracting services for the Narragansett High School auditorium renovation project to Martone Service Company Incorporated in the amount of $1,635,793?
So moved.
Discussion?
Very excited about the project. Looking forward to it. This is Megan from Colliers. She's our OPM, so she'll be help to answer some of the questions that you may have.
Good evening.
Sorry. Do you have any questions? Anything specific?
So let me just begin, right?
sure.
If you recall, we started the process of thinking about rehabbing the auditorium about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And if you recall what the auditorium is, the state it is in presently, it has been badly in need of some renovation, for at least a decade. And we, as a district, have put a lot of priority on the arts, on our music and theater. We've gotten the feedback consistently from our staff that the performance space does need some upgrading. And so this is essentially intended to upgrade that performance space so that it sounds better, looks better, is brighter, and is more modernized. All right. So Megan, if you could just give kind of a high-level overview of what the project entails, that would be really helpful.
First of all, thank you for having me, and good evening to everyone. It's nice to meet you. So again, I'm with Colliers. We are the owner's project manager on the project. So as part of a RIDE requirement, we are here to offer our services to help move the project along the way. So as Dr. Cummings was elaborating on, we're giving a really nice facelift to the existing auditorium, bringing in new mechanical equipment to replace the existing. We're enhancing the stage lighting. We're bringing in new audio and visual equipment, as well as new seating, refreshing your walls with new paint. We're adding in some additional ceiling elements that will be a nice pop to the auditorium. So just really enhancing the overall experience for the faculty, students, and families. So what we have before you is we went out for a public bid for this general contracting work. We had about 4 or 5 companies come out to the pre-bid meeting. We had 2 contractors who did submit proposals, Martone and Marin. We did do a thorough scope review with Martone to go through the project itself, review the pricing, talk about the schedule, as well as critical path items. So what we have before you here is just the packet with a recommendation. There's a bid tabulation analysis form that gives the scoring for the 2 contractors that submitted packages on the project. And then we also, I'm trying to think, what else did we? That was about it in terms of this. You have the entire 2 proposals as well to review. And then most recently, we did include a more detailed cost breakdown that was provided by Martone. I have copies of that. If you don't have that, I can certainly hand these out.
We were given that tonight, so we did get that.
Okay. So what we're looking for this evening is we would like to give our recommendation to recommend Martone Service Company out of Narragansett, Rhode Island, the general contracting services in the amount of $1,635,793.
Steve, can you give us an update on the timeline about, what work has started? When will this be,
So work will-
everything completely done, hopefully?
So work will begin probably mid-September at this point. The end result is undetermined at this point. There's an extensive lead time on mechanical equipment. In some cases, it's been up to 50 weeks. We're looking at probably 30 weeks on our equipment. So, so that's that. I think the majority of the project will be complete Christmas time, maybe January, and we may be waiting on the mechanical portion after that.
So we have been working with our music staff and our theater staff around scheduling around that, and they are really supportive of giving up the space for the necessary amount of time and making adjustments so they can do concerts in the gym, for example, and we can cover the gym floor and work with athletics and do some different pieces with that. They have been a part of the design team. I did neglect to say that earlier. So our architect and Megan and Steve have been, and I've been there as well, have been really good about collecting their input and making sure that all of the design really reflects what their needs and desires are for the space. And so that's been a really important piece of the project as we go forward.
We were able to meet almost every request but one. And in the grand scheme of things, the one was a minor wall movement that we couldn't do. Along with that, this project normally would have been a 16 to 20 week project, but because of the lead times on equipment right now, it's a best guess scenario now. We'll know better after we award and Martone actually starts placing the orders for equipment. We'll have a better timeline on that.
Steve, is this bid replacing the seats as well?
Yes, it is.
All right, that's
Yep.
good. All right. Any other questions? Alex, you've got a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. First of all, thank you for providing the line-by-line breakdown for us. It helps us to answer any questions that might come our way. Just a quick question. Under equipment for $15,000, I do know that lighting is a separate cost. Just what exactly is incorporated in the equipment portion of the $15,000?
I am gonna have to get back to you. I don't know exactly what that one
Okay.
is. I don't have that written down.
That's okay. And in the upgrading of the seating, is there going to be additional seating, or is it going to be about the same number of seats currently?
It's actually gonna be one less seat. We have to move handicap seating to the back, and do some renovation with that to meet the ADA compliance. So doing that eliminates about one seat, and that was at a request of that they have a performance area down front in front of the stage as well. So when they do choir and band together, they have the space to do it.
Okay. And then just, I don't, just out of a curiosity, was there any explanation as to why the other three didn't submit proposals?
I'm thinking that they were all busy companies and
Okay.
the time frame on the bid. It's a good time frame for us for the project because all the summer work is completing and they're opening up. But Martone's local, like guys, I think a lot of the guys knew was hungry for it because he's a local company, and he's been winning a lot of other bids in the state. So,
Okay, great.
do you have any other ideas on that?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of work going on, as Steve just mentioned. The summer push to get projects done is wrapping up, but there's still a lot of work out there, and the contractors aren't taking the work on. So the fact that we had 2 proposals, I have to say, was really good. We've had a couple projects that got 0, and that's obviously a huge blow. So fortunately, we had 2 proposals, qualified contractors. Martone is capable of doing this project. I know he's doing other projects, but he's got the bandwidth to be able to work with Narragansett. He's done work before, so he's certainly ready to do this project for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Steve, do you know off the top of your head what the seating is? How many seats in the auditorium?
What's that?
It's over 200.
Yeah, no, it's close to 460, I believe it is, 463.
Because they're able to have a full school assembly, right? Like they can fit all of the high school kids in there for an assembly at one time, right?
Correct. So we got a little iffy as we got, right around 500.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're coming back down a little bit, so.
Okay. Any other questions from the school committee before we vote?
Just one.
Sure, Diane?
As the primary users of the facility, were our drama teachers and our music teachers brought into the discussions on how they would like to see things set up?
They were, and we met almost every request they had.
Oh, great.
Any other questions from the school committee? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're excited. We want to see pictures.
You want pictures? I'm gonna have to get somebody to do that for you, Lauren.
Get some before pictures. Get some before pictures.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And item number 2, is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the 2022-2023 district-wide handbook for Narragansett school system?
So moved.
Discussion. All right.
I was very pleased to, did you want to?
No, go ahead.
Off? Okay. I was very pleased to see that we have created a district-wide handbook with consistent formatting and with content organization, similar between the 3 schools, and with the district section pulling out all the commonalities in that first section. And then the 3 schools have each a separate section for their unique information. So I think that this is something we've been looking forward to and working towards over the years. And I'm very glad to see it happen. In the past, you could see the handbooks might have been created in a silo. So bringing everybody together, and I think, Lauren, you spearheaded the effort, so thank you, and thank to all the principals and directors that worked with you on this project, because I think it's going to serve our district very well. And you can tell it was been a collaborative effort through the project. I did read through it, and I have some edits, and I'll just leave it with you.
That's great.
So Pete, who gets the kudos for the bulk of the work?
So Lauren and Lisa Wilson really, were spearheading this, but really each administrative team did a lot of work on this. So, Emily Chartier and Molly Sylvia, our deans at the middle school and the high school, put a ton of work into this. Lauren really led the really hard work of organizing and kind of pulling these things together, and this has been a long time coming. I think just to echo what Diane was saying, having the common handbook does provide consistency for families from school to school. We are a small enough district that we should be able to provide that. And it also, I think, has been a good learning experience for the organization to see where we might have had some misalignment and provided opportunity to make sure that our practices and, for lack of a better word, rule books were consistent from building to building.
All right, well, thank you to all those people. Pete, is there any, high-level stuff that you want to point out before you take any questions?
So I think, one of the pieces that continues to be of concern to us, particularly at the high school level, is vaping. It continues to be a challenge for us. In the handbook we are starting a diversion program. We piloted it last year. Molly has really been doing a great job of implementing that. And so while we, can often see, kids who become addicted to e-cigarettes, as kind of being the victims of marketing those things, sometimes it's also a cry for help for an underlying mental health need. And so, one of the things that Melissa will be talking about in our September meeting is our new partnership that's grant funded with Thunder Mist Health, where we're going to have an on-site counselor that's going to be able to provide counseling services to students who are in need that might not be able to otherwise access that. And so I neglected to bring that up earlier, but I think that's really an important piece to understand, that when a student gets in trouble for violating a rule such as vaping or something like that, sometimes that's an opportunity for us to make an intervention for a child that we might not otherwise know about. And I think that this handbook reflects that approach, where there are multiple opportunities for students to either learn from their mistakes or access supports so that they can get back on the right track. I think a second piece that I have a lot of concerns about going into this school year, that's certainly addressed in the handbook as well, is attendance. I think we had a lot of families that have been disrupted enough that getting to school can be a challenge for them, and we want to support those families and make sure kids are getting to school. Certainly students may have fallen behind during the COVID years, and it's that much more difficult for them to get to school. No one wants to go to school knowing that it's going to be a struggle for them on a daily basis. So again, I think the supports are in here that when students are having troubles with attendance, we have the policies and practices in place and able to make interventions to get them to a place where they can be successful in school.
So does anyone have any kind of high-level questions or comments for Pete about anything in the district handbook?
Well, first of all, I just want to echo what's already been said. A remarkable job and consistent formatting throughout the entire booklet here, and really impressive. Job well done all around. There were a few areas where I, too, made a few edits. Do we just send them your way?
Send them to Lauren,
okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to applaud again just everything that was included in here, like the explanation of how lunches are run at the high school and every other school. I was just wondering if maybe for the NHS lunch, maybe just a little snippet explanation on what the 200s, 400s, 500s, 600s might mean, just for a new student and parent coming in. I also really appreciated the inclusion of the school food, nutrition, and wellness policy, a breakdown of all that. I am on the Health and Wellness Committee, and I really do appreciate how thorough and well outlined that whole section was, even to respond to a comment that was made earlier. Number 5, include programs to support the positive emotional and mental health of our students and staff, something that we can certainly bring up in discussion during one of our meetings as well. And I think that's it for the most part. Everything else is just an edit, including my correct email address. Thank you. Oh, one other thing, sorry. Actually, no, this is just another edit. It's just the class officers section. I wasn't sure if there was an opportunity to put in for the potential of a class liaison to the school committee at this time, or if that's something that we want to engage in a discussion later on.
So to do that, you'd need a policy change.
Okay.
Right, which is certainly we can put on our fall agenda.
Okay.
And once you can do the policy change, the handbook is required to reflect policies in place, not potential policies.
Okay.
Right? And so what we do is that we keep this, and there's a caveat in there, is that we keep it updated on the website. So if there is a change, we notify people, and then we update it on the website.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments before we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Are there any communications that anyone wants to mention? All right, so our next meeting in September 21st, 7 o'clock here. Is there a motion to adjourn at 7:56?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.